So, here we are with some AML caps fresh off the 3D printer. I'll try and show this. This is the kind of evolution of my prints. The first ones came out really good, except I had to use a raft due to the software I was using. So the raft leaves quite a bit of material on the top that's very difficult to get off, but on the plus side, they're perfectly square. It's hard to do without a raft because of the lash in the Z-axis. So I went through, I'm up to number 15. There's a couple of varying heights. This one I had support material turned on. Apparently the program doesn't like that. And then I switched over to no raft, which gives you a nice smooth top, but unfortunately, it's going to be hard to pick up on video. They are not. They're not concentric from top to bottom. The bottom edge is actually a little bit thicker. So, anyway, long story short, went through a whole bunch of iterations of them. Got up to, I believe, number 15. Came out quite well. I was pretty happy with it. See if I can get a shot of it here. I'm printing at 0.3 millimeter layer height. I decided, I tried them at 0.1 and the printer can do it, and it makes really nice smooth outside edges, but for these there's really no need. So the top ends up being real smooth. This one's a little off because I peeled it off the bed when it was still hot, but what I had done was I copied the original design, and I had a divot on two sides and a hole on two sides of the AML cap. I decided to scrap that, and no reason the cap shouldn't be able to go on both ways. So my cap version, this is the number 16 I believe, and the one I'm most happy with. I've got the Z-axis issue kind of sorted out, but this is going to have to be sanded along the one edge. This top edge is just a little thicker, so the lens bezel doesn't go on, so you just take it on some sandpaper and do this. But the rest of the layers from about the third layer up and on are all perfectly concentric. So anyway, that's pretty much what it looks like. You can see through all the holes, get an idea of size. So this is printed on the Solidoodle. Super happy with it. I'm now using Refinements and Slicer. The old version that used the raft that makes the nice square ones is Forge, but I decided to scrap that, and I'm going to stick with Refinements. I'm really. So we'll just show here real quick the cap going into the switch. So this is the AML cap, and here it snap in. You can see they're about the same tension as the originals, but they can also go in both ways. A little tricky to get out with one hand, that is. Snap, snap. And these outside edges could be smoothed off quite a bit with some acetone or sandpaper or whatever. But for this application, I don't think there's any need to make them any smoother. I've had this switching in and out of here dozens of times, and it's still holding. So, yeah, working good. I think I've got a low-cost alternative thanks to Solidoodle. So, 3D printing, who knew? But maybe I can get a shot of the top edge here. Probably not. It's going to be tough to see, but there's quite a gloss on the top. So yeah, all it's going to take is just make them a little bit more square than they are, which is kind of convenient because you can make it fit the lens cap just perfect around lenses and bezels. But see if I can do this one-handed. But no, I was going to try and show how close they are, but you get the idea. They're pretty close. So there's the original, and there's my version beside it. So pretty close. That one's throw him in the scrap heap. But yeah, that's where we sit. So on to the next project. Print a bunch of those and get them in the rest of these panels, and good to go. One last thing, I figured might as well show it with LED on. So here's off, and here's the switch with the LED on. See the light transmission, smooth, even, pretty good. I thinned out the top layer of the caps in some of the early iterations, so that wasn't for light transmission, that was for other reasons, but it has the nifty little side effect of making things pretty bright here. See if I can get my power supply to turn back on. Nothing wants to work right for me tonight, so off, on, bring the bench lights back on, wash out the camera a little bit here, and see if I can capture this. Yeah, I think you can get the idea. I think that'll do just fine. And it has a blue tinge to it, not only because of the foam, but the camera I'm using, but these LEDs do have a bit of a blue glow to them. So anyway, thanks for watching. One last thing, since my last video, I'll just compile this in with the rest. Ron touched base with me from Hangar 45, and he suggested that I do the dual LED AML caps. So here is my, I think I only had to do about 4 or 5 revisions. I forgot the slot in the first ones, and I didn't have this little tiny cutout. Apparently that's needed for some people who are using the LED inserts and whatnot, but here it is. It fits perfectly flush at the top. Actually, I have just a tiny bit more depth than what I need there. I think it's just shy of 1 mil. And yeah, the dual cap sits right in there. Let's see if I can pull it off here. I'll put the camera down for a second. So here's what it looks like without the lens on it. This is strictly printed. I didn't do any work in the center slot other than just running my fingernail through it a few times. And on my prints I got a little bit of work to do with the wall thickness. Unfortunately, the outside walls are actually 2 layers. I don't know whether that's going to come across on camera, but they don't join well in the middle. And I can mess around with my flow rates and extrusion rates and whatnot, but it's a little tricky for me. Yeah, maybe you can see it there. You can see there's just about a little over 1/10 of a mil gap between the two, which isn't a big deal. They're uber strong enough. They're really, really strong, actually stronger than the originals. But this area where the holes are for the clips, that makes that spot weak. So what I need to do on these ones, I don't know that I'm even going to bother sorting it out. Just put the ever so smallest amount of drop of super glue on there, just enough to wick down between the layers and bond it. You could use a bit of acetone too, and then they're good as new. You snap them on and off, no problem. They actually work just fine, but if you snap them on and off a whole bunch of times, you can break that inner layer. The clips on the AML are pretty strong. So yeah, that's it. We can now print these out one piece. No need to CNC or dividers or anything. Unfortunately, you're going to have some fiddly painting to do, but so be it. The only thing I have to do, because I've got some lash in my Z adjustment, the top face ends up being a little thick, because that's what's actually printing on the bed like this. And the first about 3 layers take up the backlash, so they end up with a little bit more material. So you can actually just about take it off just by scraping it on the bench. But to get a really good fit, that's how much material I had to take off. So it's for scale, it's not much. And then the lens fits right on. And that's all I did to them. They're finished, ready to paint. Work great, done deal. Design's proven. It matches the original dimensions wise, which can change easily depending on your printer and whatnot, but for this application, done deal. Saved me a lot of money.